Good day, Facebook world. Justin Minott here with a really exciting conversation. Two of my favorite humans on the planet sitting here over Zoom. Leo Williams coming from Oak House, Durham right now. He's sitting over there. Craig Carter, where are you coming from? Is this your...
This is my home.
This is your pad. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, my question for people who have that many books in the background is, have you read them? Or
Not
are
all
they...
of them.
Okay. All right.
A good portion.
A good portion. They're not all poser books. So this is good.
No.
Okay.
So Craig wonders why I always say you're like the smartest guy I know. We're on Zoom so much every week. I see all of the knowledge behind it.
Right. That's it. Dropping gems, dropping knowledge. Well, get ready for some gems and some knowledge today, everybody, because this conversation is so needed and so timely in light of what's going on right now. So I'll introduce Craig and Leo a little bit more formally. So Craig is a local citizen here in Durham, an activist, co-founder of Bank Black Durham, which you're going to be hearing a lot about today. Leo Williams, co-founder of Swaley's, local entrepreneur, community activist, and the other co-founder of Bank Black Durham. Beautiful partnership and beautiful work that they're doing together. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So Craig, I want to hear the origin story. How did this all get started for you? What fueled it for you? Give us some of that background.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the times that we're living in, there's a lot of civic action, activism, protests, and, post the 2016 election, I've been wanting to get more and more involved in activism. Did some canvassing for 2018 and the primaries. But I never really found like a cause or a movement that I felt like I could contribute to. And after the murder of George Floyd, there were so many protests and renewed conversations about racial injustice. It had us all re-examining our history, our culture, and I attended a few protests, a vigil for George Floyd, another protest in downtown Durham for students. And while it was a great healing moment, I felt a greater connection to Durham, and I felt like there were a lot of people that cared, and it was energizing in that way. But after both events, I didn't feel like I did anything to make our community better, or I didn't have any like tangible thing that I could point at and say, I did this, and that resulted in this. And that's been my frustration with a lot of activism is I know its importance and I understand it, but I've never felt like doing it like I made a contribution, like a tangible contribution.
Yeah, boots on the ground, traction related.
Right.
All right. So then where did this come out of for you, this Bank Black Durham movement?
Yeah. So in the theme of re-examining our history and culture, racial economic injustice is a huge part of racial injustice.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest parts of that is our banking system. And there's an enormous inequality gap. To give you an example, of all the Black-owned financial institutions in America, there are over 40, their combined assets are around $6 billion.
Okay. And
the largest bank in the world, JP Morgan and Chase, has assets of almost $3 trillion.
One bank.
And if you look at any others, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, they have trillions of dollars in assets. And so there's an enormous inequality gap. And, thinking about my relationship with banks growing up, if you were like me, maybe your parents, some adult teacher told you, you have to save money. You're going to need it for vacation, home, retirement, stuff like that. And to do that, the best way to do that is to put it in a bank. And so you just open a bank account and start putting your money in, and you just don't think about it that much. And that's kind of been the theme of America, right? You just kind of like
Just don't think about it that much.
right. You just don't think about it that much.
Right.
And they don't teach you about the history of banking and how banks throughout most of their existence in America would not let Black Americans get loans, open accounts, not even let them in their buildings. And so Black Americans had to start their own banks to service Black Americans, to give them loans and to try to combat things like redlining. And it's been an immense struggle. And Black-owned banks did have a moment, if you think about Black Wall Street here, Black Wall Street in Tulsa, but there's been systemic targeting to dismantle Black-owned financial institutions, not just then.
Right. Black Wall Street, currently known as Highway 147.
Yep, absolutely. And just since 2001, there has been a sharp decrease in the number of Black-owned financial institutions. And so this movement, I walk by M&F Bank. I haven't even mentioned the words M&F Bank. They are kind of at the heart of this. So I would walk by M&F Bank, as I'm sure a lot of people in Durham do when they walk by Parish Street. It's just another building. And the Black Wall Street placard is, all that history is on one, 2x2 sign. And, it's like, I need to open an account. I need to move my money because I can't say that I care about racial economic injustice when I have all of my savings in Wells Fargo. And so I opened an account and I was like, all right, I made a change. I made a tangible change. This is what I sought to do. But why don't I share that? Why don't I try to spread this? And I immediately thought of my friend Leonardo Williams.
Oh yeah.
And because yep, we had run into each other quite a few times for all sorts of different things, especially at his amazing restaurant Willie's. And Leo, I'll kind of throw it over to you.
Yeah. So Leo, what about this connects for you? And how did you and Craig decide on what this would then become?
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having us and facilitating this conversation. It's so important.
It's huge.
So what Craig just explained to you was something that had become normal to me as a Black entrepreneur. There had been several occasions where, not only was I aware of the racial injustices in economics, and opportunity, but, actually, practically being a victim of that as well.
Right. Experiencing it, yeah.
Experience, practically was a victim of, these things that have become normal, So being aware of it and experiencing it, into its normalcy, it's not a good situation, but it's the reality. It's the America we live in, right? Craig came to me with this renewed energy of, hey, Leo, I have to do something. I can't sit back and just watch, our country continue to just degrade. And here are some of the micro things that are happening that's having a macro effect, such as, injustice in the banking system, and I said, well, Craig, these are things that happen every day. These are, you're noticing, as a white male, some of the things that I, as a Black male, have, realized a long time ago, that these little small access to opportunity situations are what causes a family to be broken. These are the things that causes, someone to not have, not even know what generational wealth is, so, I get it. So I wasn't really, it's like, I was excited because Craig is a friend of mine, but at the same time, it's like, just another idea, but he really convinced me that he was serious about it. So I got serious as well, and, we became really ambitious and said, you know what, let's throw out an arbitrary number and let's see what happens. We're going to open up 20,000 new accounts at Bank Black, at M&F Bank. And we're going to leverage M&F Bank to be more intentional about, not only why they were started, but also we're going to leverage them to help us really change the circumstances around the dinner table and around our communities. And that's when we came up with these goals, increase Black home ownership in Durham by 10% in 10 years by 2030, and increase Black small business owners by 25% by 2025. And when we started looking at the impact that this could truly have, we realized this is very possible. It's very doable.
Yes.
And so we created this campaign. We went to M&F and said, hey, here's our leverage. Here's our pitch. And this is how we're going to leverage it. And Jim Sills was like, you know what? I love it. I'm on board. Let's make it happen. And I think when he told me that he was on board, I think that was a big pill to swallow. And it's like, wait a minute. Did we just get a bank to agree to help us change the circumstances deep rooted into our communities? And that's when we said, all right, you know what? Let's go full force. And so here we are. So that's the idea. And I'll tell you just briefly. When we started Zweli's Kitchen, we looked at the things we needed to have. We needed to have a certain credit score. We needed to have a certain amount of capital to even leverage a loan. We had to have a concept that was, marketable. We had everything. We had the funds, the capital to leverage the loan. We had the concept. We had the business plan. We had the credit score. But we were considered not viable. We were not a viable candidate for this opportunity. So I dissolved my teacher retirement. The money you're supposed to use when you're old and gray. I dissolved it, and we maxed out some credit cards, and we built our own furniture. We built the bar, the tables, everything in our restaurant. And the good thing is, at the end of the first month, we were debt free.
Wow!
But the problem with that is 2 years later, we're still feeling the burn from exhausting everything we had.
Right, you were debt free and burnt out.
Right. But that we're one situation or one example of how banks do not, they're not giving us those opportunities that others could just go in, not even prove these things. You can just ask for the money and they get it. Wow. So we want to go back to a bank that was started for folks that were limited in opportunities, access to opportunities, and leverage them to say, hey, we want you to help us make things happen. Make these things happen, and it's on the road now. We've started it, we've launched it, and it's only going to grow.
Wow. So Craig, share more about what this is catalyzing into or crystallizing into in terms of the practical next steps that you're taking. I know you have an event coming up. Give us some of the practical next steps of where this movement is going.
Yeah, absolutely. So started a website. I think that was really important, a place where people could go to find more information about this cause, what's important, and the steps that they can take to fully transfer their savings from their current bank to a Black-owned bank, specifically M&F. We also, and that is bankblackdurham.com.
Yeah.
We also started a social account on Instagram at Bank Black Durham, so that we can post like infographics, and our hope is to share the stories of people who have moved their money over, and for them to share why they thought it was important to do that. And then in event planning, we are having a rally next Saturday, October 3rd at 3 p.m. in CCB Plaza. And we are going to talk about why this is an important cause and the tangible steps that people can take, even that day, to get on the path to making this systemic change.
Yeah, that's huge. What I love about this movement and why I'm so drawn to it is just how practical it is and simple. I was going to say easy. It's not easy to make some of these moves, right? Like even, as a Black man trying to shop Black and find Black toilet paper and whatever, like it's harder.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's good. Doing the right thing is harder than doing the easy thing or the comfortable thing. So not necessarily easy, but so simple. I mean, you open up an account at a bank, which you've done already before, right? You move money into that bank, which you know how to do. Right, that's it. And then even thinking of how the banking system works, from my understanding, for every $1 that a bank has in their reserve, they can loan 10 times that amount. They can issue loans in the amount of 10 times that amount. So the practical implications of me putting $1,000 into M&F Bank is $10,000 in loanable assets on their part, which is actually how banks make revenue, is on the loans. And so it's just so tangible, so practical, and it just costs you a little bit of your time. And
yeah, that's the beauty of it. Like you mentioned, it just costs your time. We are not asking anyone to spend any money at all.
right.
We're just asking you to move the money that you already have.
Oh, it's so simple.
Yeah. And if you have a bank account, then there's no reason to not have another one, you
Right.
know?
Well, it's just such a tangible way. I mean, I'm Durham, I'm Bull City through and through, and it's just such a tangible way for me to love my city.
Yeah.
It's so, I mean, M&F is right here and
Yep.
has wider reach beyond that. So I want to know for you, Leo, what about this movement is really resonating, or like, in that, what do you love most about what you two are doing right now?
Well, not only is it practical, it's sustainable.
Yes.
See, there's going to be a series of programs over the next 10 years that we're going to facilitate that's going to coach people how to buy a home. Like M&F Bank, they're going to provide a lot of programs with us as well on how to, the steps you need to take to prepare to purchase a home, as well as, helping small businesses become more viable. We're not trying to put M&F in a situation where they have to loan to, high risk companies, but if we can help change the circumstances for those small businesses to not be so high risk, but more valuable to the market status of getting loans and understanding that debt is not always bad, then we could not only strengthen the bank, but we can strengthen our community by way of the bank. And for me, this is I know reparations is a political term for some, but for me, it's personal, and this is also a way in which I believe we can directly address, reparations. Is one form. It's not the only form, but it's definitely one form. The other is, just imagine how much stronger our city would be if we had just 10% more in the Black community as homeowners. 25% more small business owners in the Black community. That's just the Black community.
Right.
But when one community or demographic is stronger, it strengthens us all. So this is one way of us strengthening the entire economy here in Durham and strengthening, let's back up and say this. Equity is ownership.
Right.
And that's really what we're going after right now. We want to bring more people to the table to have a stake in this conversation and how the city grows, how it thrives, and how we can build stronger families. And this is just one little strike at the chisel to create that generational wealth. We're going to have to level the playing field, and also, there's so many other programs that are going to come out of this, such as Ego Civic, economically growing our own to be civically engaged. This is where we work with the younger demographic, 18 to 25-year-olds, and basically taking them through a 6-month to 1-year training institute that focuses in the area of policy and economics. So when they finish this program, not only are they going to have seed money to launch their established, LLC with the mentor for 1 year, they're also going to be able to be prepared to run that business as well as, if necessary, run for public office.
Oh, that's huge. It's huge. And it's interesting because people don't often take a look at, and I know you two have dug deep into the history and the statistics around what's happening, but even just now, this is not 50 years ago or whatever. I'm talking now, disproportionately, Black businesses are closing. Disproportionately, Black businesses per capita did not get access to PPP loans, did not get access to other funding, did not get access to resources. I'm talking now, even in this current pandemic. So this is not some far off thing, and this matters. I've heard, a lot of people talking about, the big controversial statement about a Black Lives Mattering, right? That's that's a big controversial statement nowadays to say that a Black life matters. And the analogy that I've heard that I want to share is, it's like, okay, you go into a neighborhood and you see all the houses and you say, yes, all houses matter, right? True. But one of them's on fire. Okay? That house matters.
Yeah.
Right? And we need to actually call attention to that house, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not that all houses don't matter. Great, I get it. But that house is on freaking fire.
Yeah.
Right? And so when we talk about the Black community here in the United States, here in Durham, right at home, our institutions, everything, like, it's on fire. Even right now, Black businesses are closing in the middle of coronavirus at a crazy rate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Justin, something else about this movement is it's easily scalable.
Mm-hmm.
This is Bank Black Durham, but this can easily be Bank Black Raleigh, Bank Black Wilmington, Bank Black Tulsa, Bank Black Atlanta, Bank Black Greensboro, Winston, Charlotte. It's so easy, it's so practical, and it's so everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to educate folks and inform folks on how investment works. You just gave the example, $1 to 10, and how that works. And someone mentioned, it was like, yeah, but they charge me a fee for a cashier's check. Every commercial bank does that. So we want to make sure that folks are properly educated so that we can see the bigger picture easier.
Yes. So let's talk specifically, Craig, about M&F Bank, and in terms of their reach, and really just bring down the barriers to entry in people's minds for banking at this bank, right? It's not your bank in the middle of nowhere with no online banking system or any of that, right? So talk through the scope and reach of and service of M&F Bank as well.
Yeah, for sure. So this would have been a completely different conversation if this was 20 years ago, right? No Venmo, no social media, no smartphones, right? So today, it's so easy to connect your financial, credit card, checking account to online payment, Netflix account. You get a credit. And it's a very secure form of payment. So, and you can sign up for all of that online. Mm-hmm. So if you have an internet connection, if you have a smartphone, if you have access to mail, you can get all the tools that you need from M&F Bank. And
how far is M&F's reach? Like, how many branches? How many? I don't know those numbers off the top of your head.
Yeah, so they have 2 branches in Durham. They have the one downtown, which is the M&F, and they also have a branch in Raleigh, in Charlotte, in Winston-Salem, and in Greensboro.
Okay.
And they are, if you live in the Triangle, they are the only Black-owned financial institution in a long, long way.
That statement itself pisses me off, but keep going.
Yeah, for sure. So if you really, really, really need access to an ATM, that might be the only thing that's in your way. But if you get a debit card, you can just get cash back. So, it's the barriers. I would say in this day and age that there are very few barriers to entry.
Right. Well, and again, even if it is a little bit harder, the right thing to do is always the right thing to do.
Right. Exactly. Right? Yeah.
So that for me is just not even a factor. I mean, one of my friends is trying to source a bunch of Black produce, and he's like, "Oh, you don't know how hard it is to get Black cheese. I can't find it anywhere. Black produced cheese." Oh my goodness. So Leo, what's next for the movement? Right. We said we have this rally coming up. Where do you see this really going? You mentioned a few of those pieces, but really, if we said in the next 30 days, what is the goal? What are you hoping to accomplish as the Bank Black Durham movement?
Yeah, so the next 30 days is all about building momentum. It's all about, actually, I spoke with Bill Spruill. He's the Black millionaire in Raleigh, tech CEO.
Yeah.
He heard about this and he's like, man, I love it. I want to be on board. He's already moved $3 million over to M&F Bank.
Beautiful.
He's going to be speaking with a few of his colleagues in the tech industry.
Yeah.
So from the tech industry alone, we're hoping to bring at least about $15 million over to M&F Bank in the next 6 months. We could get potentially up to 40 million based on some conversations that are in play right now. So we arbitrarily threw out 20,000 accounts. However, another data point we're going to be looking at is how much money can we actually generate to M&F through this campaign. And that would be quite sizable for the leverage that we're trying to bring here.
Yeah. Well, that's 400 million in lending power.
Exactly.
Like that's what we're talking about. $400 million in scalable lending power, right?
So let's use that. Yeah, if you take $400 million in lending power, that's side A, and on side B, you're actually helping families and businesses become
homeowners, business loans.
Exactly. Imagine what that does, and this is so simple. Like it's not rocket science.
Right.
This is easy as our primary colors.
Right.
So I want to be able to, I want to be able to have that type of impact, and then help people see more of a historical, personal thing to me. Whereas historically, in the white community, the bank has been the heart of that community. Whereas in the Black community, the church has been the heart of the community. So, and I'm not saying you have to replace one another. I'm just simply saying, like, we can be spiritually grounded, but we can also be financially sound as well.
I love it. So Craig, land the plane for us here. Where do they find your work? Give more information about this rally, and let's bring it home.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to learn more about our movement, you can go to bankblackdurham.com. On there, we have information about why this is important, a little bit of the history, links to M&F Bank to get you started. We have social infographics that you can share to help better educate people on why this is important, which also include instructions of how you can go about making change. We also have a contact form on there. We are currently, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Yeah. And we are also looking for volunteers for our rally next Saturday, which is on October 3rd at 3 p.m. in CCB Plaza. Right. We're looking for people who, to pass out water and snacks and masks. Masks are mandatory, by the way. Yeah. And if you have experience with de-escalation or first aid, we would love to have you as well, because we want this to be, first and foremost, a peaceful gathering. Yeah. We're very excited. We're going to have some exciting speakers there. Should be entertaining, informative, and you will come away with steps that you can make in your own life to better the Black community, not only here in Durham, but everywhere.
Yes, huge.
Go
ahead, yeah.
Yeah, just to add to that, in addition to the website, Instagram, Bank Black Durham, and we're now on Facebook, Bank Black Durham, and you'll be able to find the event on Facebook as well as Eventbrite this weekend, and you'll be able to just sign up. We want as many people as possible to come safely, of course. But this will be it'll be live streamed as well.
Beautiful.
Yep.
I do have a question on Facebook Live here from a good friend of mine, Jake Russell. Not even sure where he's coming from right now. I think he's still in Texas, which is awesome. Can this bank make real estate investment loans? So for real estate investors, do they only handle homeowners, or do they actually go all the way up to some of the real estate investor loans? Do you have any answers on that, or?
Yeah, so to my understanding, they can. M&F, as a bank, they seek individuals to bring their banking relations. They're sort of like a one-stop shop type of bank. Yeah. So I believe they can do that. And also, just kudos to them just in working with us. Once you click on the links from our website, or if you just go directly there, M&F Bank has modified their website to provide an option of how you heard about opening an account, and they've modified it to have a Bank Black Durham option.
Yes, yes. And I do believe they make real estate investment loans. I'll have to double check. But anyway, that's beautiful. And thanks, Jake. Oh, you're in NYC. That's awesome, man. Good to see you. Glad you could make it on here. All right. Thank you too, gentlemen. I really appreciate you, who you are, the work you're doing, and the passion with which you do it. It's been inspiring to me across all spectrums of my life. So thank you. Thank you. And keep it up.
Yeah.